Okay. Excellent. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the digital Q&A for Voidspace Live 2026. I think almost everyone here are first-time festival applicants, apart from Neil. Uh, I'm just thrilled that you're here anyway, Neil. And so I think that's going to be really useful. What I'm going to do is just give a little run through of what the festival is, was, and can be, rough kind of thing of what I'm looking for, and some of the constraints involved, because I think that's probably quite a useful thing to get your head around while you are applying. And then if anyone has any questions, and I'm sure you will, we can go through those. If you're not comfortable speaking on mic, I'm also happy for you to put questions in the chat. What I'll do is that at the end of my talky bit, I will go back to the chat and see if anyone's got little interjections that they want to make and they don't want to like keep it in their brain until the end. That's how I usually go. Yeah, that's also fine. So that's how I'm going to run things, and we are recording, and I am going to start something of a presentation. So this isn't really slides or anything, it's just website pages. So what is the Void Space? The Void Space is me, and it's an interactive arts platform. So we publish a zine, now very sort of occasionally with interactive fiction and sort of literary playable writing. Also do a newsletter of interactive and playable performance. And then there's Void Space Live, and there's other things like interview people as well. And publish hard copy books, but that's less relevant. But then the thing that we're all here for is Void Space Live, which is kind of the jewel in the crown of the Void Space year. And that is a weekend long festival of playable art and interactive performance and related stuff. It's kind of so the first thing you need to know is that unlike probably more conventional theatre festivals that you're maybe used to, it's not a matter of everybody just sells their own tickets and we make it work from there. What I do is that if you're going to Void Space Live, you buy a day ticket, and on that ticket you can then go to you sign up in advance for shows, and then you can wander around the building and do anything you like. When we always have durationals, games, all sorts of stuff. I thought to give you like more of a concrete sense of what the void space is like, I might share I will share some photos from last year. So excuse me while I share my screen. And can someone just put a little an emoji or something if you can see the screen? Can anyone see the screen? Okay, apparently not. Let's try again. Boop doop, sorry. Here we go. Share. There we are. I'm screen sharing. Here we go. So, a few pictures from last year's festival. So there are two or maybe three this year studios in Theatre Delhi that have full theatrical light and sound. So this is one of the shows that was on there, I think on Saturday morning, and it was some sort of shadow puppetry with musical instruments that the audience could then play to sort of join in with and shape the characters. This one was a LARP, a chamber LARP set in Regency, England. As you can see, this is kind of one of the more standard studios, a lot more lo-fi. The lights up there, because Theatre Delhi is a former office building, you're kind of left with what you're left with. So the lights, you can't control the lights in different rooms, but we do have gels to kind of change them a little bit. So that's another form, a lot more lo-fi, but a massive hit. This was one room that got converted to look like a skip or a sort of a dumpster, and everyone in there was pretending to be raccoons, taking part in an art competition to become part of like British Animal Society, and that was probably my favourite, the thing I enjoyed doing the most. That was a detail from the LARP. Yeah, this was a room that we exhibited digital stuff in. Um, as you can see, a little bit low tech. You can't see there's some students brought in their own sort of crazy console that fights back. Otherwise, we had Chromebooks and those tables I got last minute from B&Q because we didn't have enough tables, fun times. And we decorated the room with bits and pieces. This was our playable fine art room where we had a few crazy things. This was an installation that ran all weekend. People looking at the art. This was, I think, jury games, which had its own dedicated room. So a little bit of tech there. So that's quite a nice flavour. I'm just gonna see if I can share the next little album because I just think it gives you a really good sense of the variety of experiences on offer. So here we had another LARP. And again, like this had a little bit more set dressing because the Omen Star brought their own stuff with them. People had a great time. This was a dance piece that was in one of the studios for a bit of time. That was quite tech heavy. This one was in a studio using projection for people to draw maps. This was in our sort of biggest non-tech room, and someone put up a kind of performance art exploration of the space, which some people loved, and yeah. A close up on some decoration in the cafe. Someone brought in a cool art jigsaw. More LARP. And I'm just going to get some highlights from the final gallery just to give you a bit of a flavour. Oh, yeah, so this is the shared cafe space, which is the hub of the festival, where if you're not in a show or looking at exhibits, you gather. And one of the great things about Voidspace Live is that it's just become an amazing gathering place for people to meet each other, talk to each other. You can always talk about what show you've just done, you know? And I think the kind of community element is really the thing that makes Voidspace Live special. Because also everyone's there for the whole day. You don't have people just rocking up for one show and going away again. So incredibly buzzy. This was a playable bit of furniture, which I really liked. Oh, this was Uncle Barry's birthday party. So again, in just one of the carpeted rooms, and they set it up to be like a party, but it was a kind of imaginative work that was really exciting. This was a workshop. Yeah, one thing I'm looking for this year is subs for workshops. And this was how to make an escape room. Another studio piece, more Uncle Barry. Oh yeah, so this was one of our sort of in-between studios. Doesn't have its own light and sound, but the performer here brought along their own lighting and their own kind of blackout there. Because yeah, the walls are all glass, so they spent a crazy amount of time making their own kind of collagey thing, and that lamp belongs to Delhi. So you can kind of, there is, you know, you can kind of improvise a bit and make your own setting. A couple of these studios have dance floors rather than just grey carpet. So what I'm going to rely on people doing is having a very honest think about the minimum that their show needs. So if ideally you'd love to have full light and sound, but you could make do with this sort of setup, please say. If you'd ideally like full light and sound, but you could actually make do with sort of one of the carpeted rooms, please also say, because we've got a lot of those to fill. This was a wander abouty piece where they started in a carpeted room and then went on a little tour outside the building for about 15 minutes. Generally need to keep stuff in the building for a load of reasons: timing, programming, insurance, lots of stuff. Like last year, there was a lovely idea of running a show in a car, and the sort of production difficulties of doing that when you're responsible as a programmer. You know, you have a bit less flexibility than as an individual artist. But you know, again, discussed in advance, we could work out what we do. This was another studio piece, which was interactive Shakespeare, where people were in a workshop of Hamlet and took various parts. um, and yeah, so that, I hope, gives you a bit of an overview of some of the varieties of work that we've programmed in the past. In terms of what I'm looking for today, I always say, you know, if it's playable or interactive in some way, just put it in and tell me what it is, because if it's something I haven't even thought of yet, then fantastic. The most useful thing during the application process is to really describe clearly how the audience is involved, not evolved. We're all highly evolved. So, for example, if the interaction is the audience sits down and does stuff on a phone, that's useful to know. If the interaction is the audience is embodying characters and playing them, that's good to know. If this is an interactive workshop where participants will get hands-on to learn X, Y, Z through these exercises, that's also really useful to know. Um, in terms of the final programming, actually, let me do this first. So here's an overview of Theatre Delhi as it currently stands. Um, Last year and the year before, we had the bottom two spaces, which were the ground floor and mezzanine. I'm hoping this year we're also going to get the first and second floor, which opens up some really exciting possibilities. What we do in terms of performance is split the day into 3 slots, and the aim is for everybody who's at the festival, if they want to go to 3 shows or workshops, or like linear performances. So the first thing I have to think about is, can I, for each of those 6 slots across the weekend, get 150 people's worth of linear entertainment for each slot? So it means having to program a mixture of larger capacity work and smaller capacity work, because it's literally a matter of numbers. The great thing about the sort of day ticket model is that I can pay everyone the same regardless of capacity. So if you have, like last year, each slot would have maybe 2 or 3 bigger pieces, and then maybe 2 or 3 like smaller pieces that were like, between sort of 3, 4 and 10 people, say. So that's generally how it's worked out, and it's a consideration. The exciting thing this year is having these first and second floor spaces. I'm hoping to make a lot more space than previously for durationals and installations. So you see the teeny tiny rooms there. I think one of them's taken by someone else. But there's some teeny tiny rooms where we could stage some art. There are some big open spaces on the first floor and second floor. So I'm really excited for the possibilities, and I'm really hoping to get some submissions that can help us make use of it. There are also a couple of, as you see, bigger rooms here. I think they're carpeted ones. So it just gives us a little more wiggle room for programming a variety, and also maybe taking the pressure off the turnaround. So first thing I take into account is capacity. Second thing is literally the rooms available at any one time. So, if I've programmed a bunch of things, but it turns out that 3 of them need room 6, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to rethink it. Um, the final thing, no, I think that's it actually. Yeah. But basically it is a matter of playing 3D chess, and that's what I'm here to do. So all I would say is just, also the other thing is technical requirements. So there are 2, possibly 3, depending, studios that have full technical setup. The majority of studios don't. So I would urge you to think very carefully about what your minimum requirements are, what equipment of your own you can bring. We have a small stock of equipment that we can help with. So we have like small Bluetooth speakers. We have some projectors, and we have like a few cans. Uh, so if you really need that support, and we've got some Chromebooks. So if you need that support, let us know. But again, another factor that I'd have to consider is, if there are a bunch of shows with heavy technical requirements, I'm only going to be able to pick a sort of few of them. So that's just another constraint to bear in mind. That said, I'm really excited about the possibilities. So let's think. Other practicalities. Let's talk about timelines. So the festival itself is on the weekend, 5th and 6th of June. The get-in at the moment is likely to be the night before, so the Friday night for 4 hours from 6 till 10. Again, on your application form, particularly for people who want to do installations and durationals, if you think you'll need longer than that, please put that down, because I might be able to negotiate something with Delhi. Like, I can't make any promises, but my aim this year is to try and get all the information in one place, because it just makes life so much easier. So I think really the big takeaway from that is just, if you've got anything that you think might be relevant, just please put it in, because it will make the job a lot easier. So get-in is the night before. In the weeks before the festival, I'm hoping to have a couple of sort of open afternoons where, like, one tech setup where anybody who needs to set up queues in the studios can, and anyone who needs who wants to get an advanced kind of recce of their space can do so. I'm also hoping to have another meet and greet, and I'm going to be doing an induction for the stewards, and you're always welcome to come, but you don't have to. In terms of team, there's going to be me, and there is going to be somebody called Vicky, who is going to be looking after you guys and is going to be your sort of main point of contact. If we have further questions for you, and on the day, there's going to be Amber, who is going to be our production manager, who is going to be our problem solver extraordinaire, and there is going to be Craig, who is going to be our kit fairy. Now, one issue with Theatre Delhi is that there is a limited number of things in the building, like a limited number of chairs and a limited number of tables. And normally, because Theatre Delhi is often used as rehearsal space and things are happening throughout the day, if you need an extra chair for your thing, you can just grab it from another room. Now, because the whole of the space is being used at once, we have to be really careful to make sure that 4 different people don't want to use the same table at the same time. So that is not a selection issue, that's a pre-planning issue. So me or Craig will be getting in touch with you to really double check how much furniture you need. If you know that in advance to put on the application form, yay, that makes our life so easy. If you need a bit more time to really work that out in granular detail, then that's fine, but maybe indicate that on the form. You'd be amazed how, like, tables just overtook my life in the run up to the festival last year. But again, as I say, we will deal with it. All we need from you guys is just to be super clear when you're thinking about what your shows need, like down to the last stick of furniture, because you won't be able to say, like, if you come on the day and say, oh yeah, by the way, can we use that tall stool over there? Last year, despite our best efforts, we discovered that because of a communication issue, 2 shows wanted the same tall stool at exactly the same time, and it was just like we had to negotiate it on the day to work out who needed it less. Really want to avoid that happening as much as possible, so yeah, we're going to do that. Oh, the other thing I really need to know is your maximum and minimum capacity, because again, as I said, I'm going to be making sure there's 150 people's worth of stuff every, like, 3 hours. So part of the jigsaw is working out how to accommodate them. So I think the takeaway basically on the application process is just, the more information you give us, the easier it's going to be to program and accommodate everyone. Final consideration. I'm going to stop screen sharing now because I don't really need to. Final consideration, now we've stopped talking about space, is unfortunately budget. So say I get 60 amazing submissions and I love them all, and doing the jigsaw, like, a variety of them could work. I'm unfortunately constrained by how much I can actually afford to pay people. So the model is that, like, 150 people will pay for a ticket. And we've got some extra funding through the crowdfunder. At the moment, I'm putting in my own earnings from, like, seminars and stuff into the pot, although I hope not to have to forever. And then out of that budget, once other things have gone, I'll have, like, a pot left to pay artists. Aiming to be in the £100 to £200 mark. So 200 for shows that are, like, about like an hour or more, 100 for stuff that's less than that, basically. And for all, if you have a durational that's all day, the aim, or you do multiple shows in a day, the aim is to pay £400 a day. So obviously that's all subject to confirmation, depending on final funding, but that's the aim. So I'm going to be very open about a lesson that I learned last year. When you think about your budget and your programming, you want to get your 150 people's worth of program in. But if you do that well in advance of being sure that you're going to sell 150 people's or 300 people's worth of tickets, that can be a very stressful time. As it turned out, we sold out and it was fine. And, we were able to do that. This year, I'm going to take a slightly different approach. So at the moment, I've worked out something, work it out in advance. Production 101. This year, I've worked out that at 50% capacity, it's like we sell half our tickets. Right now, we break even. So that's going to be the first kind of allotment of shows based on that. So what I'm going to do is do a kind of first allocation as I get more comfortable on ticket sales. I'm then going to be able to reach out to like a second wave of people and then possibly a third wave of people. I'm hoping that everything will be lovely and I can program everybody I want to program once, and that second wave will be like, hey, you're here anyway, do you want to do a second show that day? But we'll just see how it shakes out. So in terms of so the application process itself, the closing date is the 28th of February, and I'm aiming to do my 3D chess and get back to everyone by the end of March, or mid-March, so that I'm able to start publicising the festival and selling tickets in April. But I may start selling tickets before we finalise the programme. We'll see how it goes. So that's what I'm hoping to do. I might get back to you with I don't think it quite fits. Sorry, but you're great, but we've just got too much. I might get back to you with a yes, for sure. I might get back to you with I love this, can't quite budget for it right now, but like, how much notice would you need if I sort of was able to fit you in last minute? And then after that, as I say, best case scenario is I can give everybody I want one slot and then possibly go up to more if need be. So that's a bit of a work in progress and a bit of an unknown. It's the first time I've done it like that. So, bit of history for new people. Voidspace Live started in 2024, basically because in December 2023, I was really irritated that nobody seemed to understand what the kind of interactive arts space was or could be. And so I was just like, right, I'm going to put it all under one roof in one day, and you're going to come along and you're going to understand it. So obviously I didn't come along from like a great experience of producing festivals or shows. I did a student thing. So it's very much been a learning process as we go. I often say now that if I'd understood how a conventional theatre festival is run, I would never have attempted to do it like this. And I'm really glad that I didn't know, because then I wouldn't have done it. So just one other thing which I've learned from experience is just to be really honest and say, this is, in the main, still a team of volunteers, although we're hoping to change that. It's basically people who I know and trust pulling together to make something. There is no big company, there is no organisation, there is no kind of team of permanent staff apart from me. So all I would say is that I'm really excited to see your work. I hope that this has given you a bit more info, like behind the scenes of the process, to kind of understand the many cogs of decision making, and it will help you shape your application. But also, I just hope that we can all be patient with each other, understand that we're all kind of coming together to make something cool. And if there are any bumps in the process, all I can say is we'll talk about it, we'll be patient, and we will make it work. Okay, I think that's the end of my spiel. So now I'm going to open to the floor. Let me just check the chat to see if anybody... Oh, 7 things in the chat. Okay, gatekeep, gaslight, girl boss. Yes. Lo-fi LARP would be great. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, with lo-fi LARPs last year, we ran 3 or 4. Like we could sort of tuck them into the pockets of the program, and they are always super popular. I think maybe 4 or 5 actually, because we ended up having 3 at the same slot, and it became an impossible puzzle. Um, so yeah, lo-fi LARP we love because it's so flexible. Yeah, Meet at the Tavern was a fun one. Uh, Yay for Carpet Room. All I would say, telling me this now is lovely. Please put it on your application form because that's the only place where I can reliably keep track of information. So um, please, for the love of all that's arty, um, put that down because it would be great. Projects with musicians, bringing music, da 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 da. Okay. Cool. So there's a thing here about either having musicians or not doing musicians. One thing I'd say again from experience is just saying we're flexible uh, leads to a less than optimal level of planning and organization. So if you've got multiple options, I would beg you to set out each option, and for each one, say what you need, equipment wise, square footage wise, and capacity. And then I can look at all those options and maybe pick one or more rather than saying, oh, yeah, we're flexible, we'll do anything, because I can't really make a decision based on that. So I hope that's useful. Um, that was from experience last year where people were super flexible, but it turned out in the end that what we gave them didn't actually meet what they needed because they hadn't really told me what they needed because they were so keen to be flexible, which leaves everybody sad and angry. So we can avoid it next time because I'm learning. Neil, you'll be sitting on the stool of doom, and I will just drape a sheet over you and make you part of the scenery. Cool. I hope that makes sense. I'm really sorry if any of that sounds very um like directive, but because I'm learning from experience, hopefully being clear will just make everyone's lives easier. And unfortunately, it is through learning the hard way. Cool. So I've gone through the chat. If anybody wants to ask a question on mic, do a little hand thing. If anybody wants to ask further questions in the chat, you can also do that. Uh, cool. Who's going to be first? Oh, oh, okay. Um, have I just told everyone everything they need? That would be a first. Hmm. Ah, Ollie! Hooray! Thank you. What's your question?
Sorry, hello. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello. This is a bit of a separate thing, but I'm obviously having a look at applications to see if I've got time for something exciting. I was wondering also, do you need volunteers to help with anything in the run up or like for the event? I'm
Oh
also keen
God,
for that.
yes, 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 yes,
Ooh,
yes, 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 yes.
good. Nice.
So I think the core production team is sorted, but
Mhm.
we will definitely need volunteers on the day. So many
Nice.
volunteers. And what volunteers will be doing is a mixture of stewarding, um, frantically moving chairs and tables around between studios, between times, maybe having a bit of downtime, maybe standing around and making sure that nobody carries off an exhibit. There's various different things. In the run up, let's talk nearer the time because there are a few discrete admin tasks which I could do, or maybe you could do if you find that you've got the time. I think it's again from experience, it's really hard to know if you've got that time now. And like
Mhm.
best intentions, you might think you do, and then be like, oh no, sorry. So I
Mhm.
will like remind me in like April.
I will,
And
yeah.
yeah, and then we can talk about if there's anything pre-event that you could do. So the main things I'm thinking are like the box, like yeah, we can talk about that offline. There
Yeah.
is some sort of admin stuff that could be done. But yeah, absolutely for volunteers. And if anyone you know wants to volunteer, like please do spread the word on that one because
Yeah.
that's our biggest thing. Oh, in terms of other perks, obviously I'm hoping to offer some payment, which is maybe not as much as I'd like to offer, but like it's not bad for this kind of work. You'd also get obviously entry to the festival all weekend, and if we have any room, yeah, usual festivals, if we have room on the door for stuff, then you can pop in. A lot of people just find that hanging out in the cafe and talking to people
Yeah.
is awesome. Also, I would say the Void Space has the most up for it audience you will ever meet. So people said to me last year that they just loved having people come along who just loved their work and were engaging, participating, filling the room. Um, I will also feed you because I'm a Jewish mother and that's what I do. So there will be sandwiches, there will be fruit, there will be crisps, because I can't imagine running something and then not feeding people in some way. Might also do what we did at VPN, which was evening pizza. Uh, oh yeah, merch stand. Oh God, we need people on the merch stand. Um, hoping that the ticketing system means that we don't need as many people on box office this year. Anyway, that's to work out near the time. Um, thanks, Ollie. That was a really cool question.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I will send you a message in the future. I'm sort of in a cohort of like producers at Central School of Speech and Drama. So we have placement, yeah,
Amazing.
we have placement periods on
Wow.
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays going forward the next term. So I might just be like,
Ooh.
there may be things to help out if you want for
I
experience.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I could
And immersive
definitely find.
interactive as well, you know. I've got the
Yeah.
few of us who are like very hungry in that department. So that's good.
Amazing. Well, if you've got dedicated like time set aside to do it, that's
Mhm.
so different from people who are like, oh, I can do an hour here and there,
Yeah.
and then discover they can't do an hour here and there.
Yeah.
Oh, Central. So
Yeah.
much comes from Central. Cool. Yeah, let's talk about
Mhm.
that
Yes.
sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Drop me a
I'll send
message
you a
and
message.
remind me, because otherwise I'll forget.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll talk further. Cool.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna just turn my camera off if I'm in the middle of the street.
Okay.
Like,
Oh wow, dedication. Okay. Literally promenade Q&A, a whole new immersive element. Cool. Does anyone else have any questions? Who can I see? Like Viola, I know you have a sort of installation or maybe performance. Oh, ditto Mikey, you have a sort of installation or performance thing. Ditto Tom. Cool. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about those? Like I've given you an overview of potential spaces. For installation people, um, if there is a particular chunk of space that you think you'd like, or chunks of space, put them down, look at the map. I'm going to share a link to the map. I think I put it in the application pack, but I can't remember. So I'm going to share it now. Um, I can't guarantee that everyone will get the studio they want, but if you have any, like all applicants, if you have any particular preferences, let me know. It might be helpful for everyone. Again, last year, I just gave someone a room, and they told me the week before that actually that room was too small and they needed a bigger room, and we made it work. But like my mantra this year is let's just think about things as far ahead of time as we can, and then it'll be just much nicer for everybody. Um, cool. Viola, did you have something else to ask? You don't have to.
I
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm thinking like, have you ever thought about maybe like some artists might want to sell some kind of, I don't know, like magnets or
Yeah, yeah, good point. If you have any merch that you'd like to add to the merch stand, that would be amazing. So we would take all payment through our own payment system, unless you want to be on the stand yourself and use your own payment system. Otherwise, we could do it for you and then just make sure that we've entered the entries and divvy up afterwards.
cool,
Yeah,
cool.
cool,
Okay.
no problem. We might also, subject to working out if we can, sell some extra tickets for people who just want to do the exhibits and the installations, and like it's not a show ticket, but for like 15 quid you can come and look at everything else, because we seem to have a really strong installation cohort this year, so I think that might be worth investigating. I just need to look at the size of the building and just work out if that's going to be a scramble. But yeah, it's another possibility. Cool, thank you. Okay. Anyone else? I think there's Tom, Mikey, and Maeve. So I don't want to pick on people. I just want to make sure that everyone's had a chance to ask things. Could you guys just do like a heart emoji if you've got no questions, and then that's probably the easiest way of making sure everyone's cool. Awesome. Okay. Ah, lovely. This is nice. Lots of hearts. Makes me feel loved. Cool. Alrighty. Amazing. In which case, if there are no further questions, I'm gonna press stop on the recording now, but do feel free to hang around afterwards if you want to have a chat or go about your Sunday evening. All right. Thank you all so much for coming. And last thing I'm going to do is reshare, I hope, the link to the open call itself. That has some written information on it. And it also has a link to the application form. If you go away with one thing from this Q&A, I would say, if in doubt, put it on the application form, because my one big aim this year is to work from one spreadsheet rather than 5 spreadsheets and 20 emails. So yeah, cool. All right, I'm gonna press stop now. Yes, I am sure.